Us today. There we go. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today at this weekly Wise Leader interview. I am so excited to be here with a dear friend of mine, Ellie Lapidus, and she is the Director of Information Services for Northwestern Medicine. She has so much great experience to share with us. She has been a leader in so many different areas. She is an immigrant from Russia. She's been married for 30 years and has three wonderful adult children. And we're going to really dive into wise leadership today and talk about Ellie's journey. Ellie, welcome. I am so excited to have you. What did I leave out from your bio? Because there's just so much there. What would you like to share?
Thank you so much for having me here. That's very, very exciting. No, I think you pretty much covered a lot of it. What's the most exciting? I received my copy of the book about right before this call, together with the workbook, the cards. I am so excited. I did read the book online, but it's just completely different having the actual copy. So I absolutely love it. I'm also, really looking forward to diving more into the workbook and start answering some questions.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, it feels so good to hold it in your hand, and the book and the cards actually just tactile feels so nice.
I absolutely love it. And
Yeah.
I think it's just so important to have the book specifically for women leaders. I actually didn't think about it, in the past until one of my daughters actually recommended that I read Brave, Not Perfect.
Oh, yes.
Also was, really just for the female leadership. And it just kind of opened my mind. It is absolutely true. So some of the difference that I thought kind of like perceived differences that I'm seeing, it's actually not just for me. It's not just my struggles. This is the overall what women in leadership are going through. And this book is just exactly what's needed. Thank you. And I love it very much to the point, gives you exactly what to do. So I love it.
Thank you so much, Ellie. Yeah, when I put this book together, I wanted it to be an easy read for busy professionals, but to really have impactful exercises in it so you could really own the material and embody it in your life. And I wanted to address those obstacles and challenges specifically to women, because I think women, like you said, sometimes we can feel really alone in it, or we can even think like, I must be imagining this, or it must, this isn't really happening. It must be just me. And to have that comfort of like, oh, other women struggle with this too, I think is really important.
Exactly. Just be able to talk about it openly. I think it's also very interesting. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, to shed some light on what's going on.
Exactly. And a lot of times you read a book and it's more of like a framework. There's no actionable items. And I really love actions. So to me, that was just absolutely fantastic. There's like, okay, let's just do this. Let's just think of that. So I absolutely love that kind of like almost like call to action. How can you actually implement some of the strategy in the real life? So
Yeah.
good job, Donna.
Yeah, thank you. When we do these workshops and self-help books and retreats, the research shows that only 2% of people actually change. And I really want to up that statistic. I am very big on you have to provide actionable steps. You have to provide more than education and knowledge. You have to find a way to really help people implement it in their everyday life. And so that was really my goal with this book.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for writing it.
Yeah. Ellie, you are such a strong leadership and a woman that I admire. I would love for you to share with us some of your leadership journey.
Okay. So first of all, I'm a big believer that leadership is not a title. You can be a leader anywhere, in any situation, and pretty much any situation needs leaders. And there's so many leaders that I've met that really never been recognized publicly by their title, but they're just tremendous leaders. So I've been really fortunate to just meet a lot of people like that on my way.
Yeah.
So when I started really thinking about the leadership, I'm very creative, but I can't really, I'm not very crafty. So even when I was little, I've noticed that I'm really good at like organizing work. I could tell my friends how to do something and they would do this, and I would just kind of like direct the work and they would just execute perfectly according to my vision.
There you go.
At early age, I didn't think it was leadership. It was more of me using what I can bring to the table, and they
Yep.
would just do the work. But then I'm also the person that really likes to take charge. So any position or that I've had, I just really take charge. I
Mhm.
love the decision making component. So, and again, I was really fortunate that along my journey, people recognize that I do have that gift and, really helped me to be where I am right now.
Mm, yeah. So many great points in that message. The first one I think fits perfectly with that chapter on claiming your leadership. Like nobody is going to bestow this
Yeah.
title on you, right? And I think women often wait for other people's recognition before they own it themselves. And like you said, you can be a leader in your synagogue, you can be a leader on your PTA, at your church, in your community, in your home, and it doesn't have to be some grand title.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Just at any point of time, you can be a leader anytime.
Hmm. And then I think another point that you made in there was that wise leadership is also about leveraging your strengths, right? And doing the things that you're good at and come naturally to you, because it's not the same for everyone. And
Right.
oftentimes we think, when we're really good at something, we often think, well, everyone is good at that. Like every people just know this, and we don't always recognize our expertise.
Well, and it's true. And I think it's just the more you know yourself, the better it is. So I
Hmm.
know that I will never be a good artist. That's not one of my skills. Do not ask me to bake anything. So I mean, very clear limitations. Even if you give me a recipe, don't ask me to bake anything. So, but yes, there's other things that I do extremely well. So I
Yeah.
think just knowing some of those things and knowing where you want to go with your skills and abilities is also quite important.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I tell people, and people have probably heard me say this, like, I am not the crafty mom. I am not the baking cookies mom, but public speaking, or, I've got my kids are activists, that's stuff I can do. But,
Exactly.
we all have to find our strengths and how to use them. And I think just accepting who we are and that certain things are not in our wheelhouse, you know?
Honestly, this whole baking thing came up so many times when my kids were growing up, when all of these various, PTA meetings and things like that. And I was very clear, I do not bake. I'll organize, I attend, I'll sell, I'll do anything you want me
Right.
to do, but don't ask me to bake. And one time when they pushed me to bake, I actually ended up buying the home style cookies in the store, warming them up in the oven and serving them on the plate.
I love that. I love that.
so, so that's, the story on this.
Right. And I say, like, I believe that women can have it all. I really do. Like, I have a very happy home life and a very successful business, but you have to pick and choose, like, where your time is going to go, and what is most important to you. I say you can have it all, but you can't do it all. So that's one of the things. Like, I choose not to bake, I choose certain things not to do, because I'm having it all by spending quality time with my kids and working in my business. But having it all looks different for everybody.
You know what? And it takes time to actually learn that particular lesson,
Yeah.
because I've tried doing it all and it was impossible. And I got burned out more than once or twice when I was just literally sitting here in tears and what's happening. And it's just, you just need to recognize that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to do all of
Absolutely.
this. You just need to recognize what's the most important on each given day. And that's where you put your time and energy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think that's a big wise leadership lesson, learning to ask for help. And
uh,
women often are used to doing it all and not asking for help. Like, people go to them for help, and they think that they have to be there for everyone, but they're not going to ask for help themselves. And that is a lesson to learn to really fully step into your leadership.
Agree. And then even saying no to some of the things that you want to do, but you just know that based on all of the priorities, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say no, especially to the things that you want to do, and you don't want to disappoint people, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
time.
that's really where that people pleasing comes in too, right? Like you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to say no because what you think other people will think, or you're still in that phase of trying to do everything. But really, that's a wise leader skill, learning how to say no so that you can say yes to what's most important to you. And if we fill our time with all these no's, we never get around to the yeses.
Exactly. You're open to other experiences. So it's pretty
Mhm,
good. It's pretty
mhm.
good, but it takes time to learn.
Yes, for sure. Ellie, I would love to hear about some of the obstacles you think or have experienced that seem to be particular to women as they're rising up in leadership.
Well, as you know, when women are bossy, sometimes we get labeled other names.
Right.
And when we express ourselves, sometimes, I mean, we're labeled as emotional
Mm,
versus, the same message being delivered by a man would be, passionate or many other adjectives. But again, they're not being labeled for what they say. And I've seen it way too many times, unfortunately. So one of this actually almost, I don't want to say like necessarily mimicking some of the male coworkers, but almost kind of like observing what works. And especially, having the male bosses and things like that, sometimes actually, just having control of some of your message and your emotion is a really powerful thing. It doesn't mean you need to deliver it exactly the same way. You can feminize your message and, of course, be you. But at the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge what works the best with each individual person.
mhm, mm.
Because, I've noticed that sometimes you deliver a message and you see blank looks, or a person already checked out because you already reminded them of the nagging
Oh,
spouse or a
uh-huh.
mother or a sister, and you definitely don't want to be in that particular position. So you
Yeah.
want your message to be strong, you want to be heard.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it can be a fine line, right? Of like speaking in your authentic voice and your unique voice and being able to be heard, right? And that's one of the things I think you always have to be asking yourself, like, why am I saying this? What's the outcome I desire? And is saying it this way going to get that outcome? Will it be heard? I think that's a good point.
But there's also a flip side, just being Russian and, having my particular personality. I'm not necessarily the person that adds like a lot of sprinkle to the message either. I'm not necessarily, like peachy and flowery at times. So even communicating with some women, I know that I need to soften the message.
Yeah.
There's a balance between it's not necessarily just how I conduct myself with like the man, for example, group of men when I deliver the message. It's also how do I deliver the same message in a group full of women where I
Yeah.
need to add a few more flowers to the
Yeah.
message.
Knowing who your audience is
Absolutely.
really important, right? And I kind of learned that the hard way at times. My as a leader, my emails could be very direct. Do this, do this, do that, right? Without the hey, how are you? And I had to learn to, like you said, sprinkle some flowers in there. And I was very grateful that I had a supervisee who was willing to say that to me, because we learn from each other, right? As a leader, you learn from the people you lead, and hopefully they learn from you too. But in my busy mind and just trying to get things done, I would be like, boom, 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 boom. And they'd be like, hey, yeah, yeah.
I'm really fortunate right now that my team, especially the managers on my team, have very assertive female personalities on my team that are really good at stopping me if I go too fast or too
Mm,
harsh, or they just kind of like pause it a little bit.
oh, that's good.
Let me see other perspective, which is absolutely fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, to your credit, you've helped develop that team so that there is like a leader has to create safety for their team, right? So that they can give that feedback of like, whoa, that's too fast, or hey, that was a little harsh. It's that safety that has to be developed so you can have that good communication.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It is this trust is extremely important. I
Hmm.
think to be able to express yourself freely without being afraid to say what you actually think, I think is the most important. One of my favorite thing about leadership is to actually be able to select your team
Yeah.
and be able to select the team of people that kind of like share your vision, but at the same time very very different.
Hmm.
So I always say that I hire people that are smarter than me.
Yeah.
What it translates to is that they have skills and abilities that I don't have,
Hmm.
which I think as a team makes us a lot stronger. So we all bring something to the table. It's like, one big pie and everybody, just have a piece of this. And I think that's what makes us a really, really good team.
Yeah, I think sometimes leaders make the mistake of hiring people that are just like them because like they enjoy talking to them and they wow, I'm really compatible, and you can be compatible and different. And I think a good leader knows to hire, as you said, where they complement your abilities. You don't need to keep replicating your abilities. You need to fill in the gaps, right?
Exactly. And I love our creative discussions. I'm
Hmm.
not always right. They're not always right. Sometimes we end in the middle. Sometimes we see each other's points. And I absolutely love it. Like whiteboarding exercises. When sometimes, I see the light. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about it. Very, very different perspective. I absolutely love it. That is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's where innovation really comes from, is having those diverse opinions where, somebody can see your blind spots and you can see somebody else's blind spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can
It's
have it.
another reason why I'm really big on diversity and inclusion, because I think we all win when there's a diverse set of people at the table with different life experiences that can help you see something in a different way.
Oh, of course. I mean, you can only see what you know, kind of, right? So
Right.
people with different experiences and different, walks of life immediately see something different.
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
the same message, they read it and hear it differently.
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
it's just so important to be able to have this perspective. And I think that the more diversity you have on the team is absolutely the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think a wise leader knows you don't know what you don't know. Right, and it's bringing in those differences that help you figure that out and show you that.
Right. And you can't do it all. You
No.
cannot do it all. You can only, set the vision and you hope that, your vision is being translated to something that you actually want to see at the end. And you
Mm.
just kind of, monitor all of this in the process, but you cannot do it all. So that's why you do need to
Yeah.
have people like
Yeah.
that.
And I see that, with the coaching clients that come to me, a lot of times they're burnt out because they have been trying to do it all, and they're not really good at delegation, and they're not really good at asking for help. And, they find themselves just really, really burnt out because they've been doing too much. And teaching them the positive psychology work habits that are the work habits of the most successful people and are often contrary to what they've been doing is really key to getting back in balance and discovering, oh wow, I can actually be more successful by doing less, which is like a big aha.
Absolutely. There are some things that somebody else can do. Not only you're helping yourself, you're helping them to develop.
Yes.
So when you
Yes.
actually think it from that standpoint, you already know how to do this. If
Mm.
you're actually assigning this task to somebody else, they're learning in the process. You can guide them through this, you can mentor them through this, and at the end of the day, everybody's better.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes leaders have to have that reframe around asking for help, learning that asking for help is offering someone an opportunity.
Mhm.
And when they reframe it that way, it becomes easier.
Of course.
Yeah. Instead of seeing it as like a weakness of yourself, it's a gift to someone else.
As leaders, we do not like see our vulnerabilities.
Right.
It's probably not just me, but I mean, the vulnerability is a difficult part.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I wrote a post this week about how hard it is for high achievers and leaders to often forgive themselves for their mistakes, because it's like, oh, I feel vulnerable, I feel uncomfortable, I have this perception of myself that I have to be perfect, right? And they can really struggle with that.
That's why brave, not perfect.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Everyone add that to your reading list. Right.
It's practically impossible. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. I would love to know, Ellie, how do you think being a Russian immigrant has cultivated your perspective, even your leadership? I'm really fascinated by that.
Okay, well, one of the big things is probably I'm a person that's going to do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like plain and simple. This is what needs to be done. I'm going to do that. I don't care during the project I need to bring coffee or take the garbage out. I mean, if that needs to be done, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take leadership to take garbage out. So, so I think this is just really probably has something to do with my upbringing as well. That this isn't being the oldest in the family. I mean, you just do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when you immigrated to the U.S.?
So I've been here for over 30 years now. So, but there's certain things that you've learned as a child can stay with you.
Right. Yeah, and I think you hold on to that culture and those cultural values, because your formative years were there.
It just become part of you, right? So, so you grow and develop, but there are certain things that are just totally you. Mm-hmm. Like I don't do great with like feelings, for example. I mean, I'm just learning to all feelings are okay. And my children are really helping me, to understand that it's okay to cry. Feelings are fine. And all of the feelings are okay. It's okay to do this. It's okay to admit that something is not great. It's okay. And those are not, very easy things for me. Yeah. But overall, just, kind of like everything, all of my leadership kind of came from the standpoint, I'm just going to do what needs to be done. And if there's a date, believe me, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get this done by this particular date. Which means that I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to like forego a lot of other things that I need to do, but this thing is going to get done by this particular date. Mm-hmm. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, I can really understand that. It's like you become very committed, very reliable, but I can see how that probably contributed to your experiences of burnout in the past.
Yes. And the more unrealistic the date is, the more excited I am, because it's a really, really great challenge to do something that seems like impossible right now. And then you make it happen. And like, wow, this is amazing. And you're just almost going through this rush of just craziness and going through this. And then you understand that, well, maybe they should have been negotiated differently. And then I've learned that in later years that that sometimes you do have, a say in particular dates, and you can change them, you negotiate them. And yes, some you don't.
Right.
I also
that's one of the things I've been working on with one of my clients is really, since they are an expert and a leader, they do have a voice in setting expectations and saying, like, I'm the expert in this department that I lead. This is how long it's going to take. And instead of putting themselves in that position to, to burn the midnight oil and things like that, they're setting these realistic expectations and finding that, oh, wow, people respect my point of view and respect that I am in charge of this department and that's what it's going to take. And sometimes as leaders, we can feel that external pressure to, to perform, and sometimes we get addicted to that adrenaline rush too, right? Like, I'm going to do it.
It is very exciting. It is constant victory. It is a constant battle. It is just, you're constantly high. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
It is super exciting. And then during the low periods, we're not doing, something that fast paced. It's almost boring. You almost don't know what to do with yourself.
Right, right.
For the next impossible goal to jump to. So
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Guilty, guilty.
Yeah. And I think that's that's what high achievers need to learn is like that it's okay to not be doing, that it's okay to sit in silence, and that the body needs that. The body needs time to refuel and replenish. And that actually, when you allow that to happen, you become more productive and more efficient. And instead of trying to drive through the fatigue, you're working clearer and better with less, right?
Took me a long while to learn that lesson. Slowing
Yeah.
down is not something I do really well.
Right. And I think that's why most of my clients come to me in middle age after they've been doing this for decades, and they're like, okay, there has to be a better way.
Exactly, exactly. And then you find it is like, well, there's nothing actually going to happen if you spend 5 minutes doing nothing. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And
Yeah.
it's funny because you need to give myself permission to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, when my kids are not even in the house, and I find myself all of these various activities that I'm doing, and I almost need to have a permission, like you can just sit down with a cup of coffee and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the greatest feeling though, when you learn how to sit with your cup of coffee and just savor it and
Yeah,
enjoy that moment, maybe watching the birds outside, or I mean, it's like such freedom when you learn how to do
it's
that.
fantastic. It
Yeah.
took me a long time to appreciate that, but it is absolutely needed. You absolutely need to recharge. It is just as important as moving fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
also, for me personally, moving fast is been quite dangerous because there are a few people, in my past, even in the team, said several times that I'm moving way too fast because my brain is already 100 miles an hour. I'm
Hmm.
already, just right over there. People are trying to catch up. I'm not giving them opportunity to catch up sometimes. So this is where, again, people on my team who's very strong can really say, whoa, slow down.
Hmm.
Can't do that. You're
Yeah.
killing everybody. Just slow down. And it's good to have people that can put brakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great that they've been given a voice to be able to do that.
Exactly. So then, I'm consciously not noticing, and I even like ask, am I moving too fast with something?
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
I'm
Learning how to ask
acknowledging
that.
this. I'm learning a lot from them as well. And
Yeah, yeah. And again, like that's the wise leadership, because wise leadership is not about you doing everything. It's about helping you help other people develop, right? It's about the people that you're influencing, and how do you influence them in a positive way. And whether it's that you're influencing an entire, social movement, or influencing your community. It's why I say, stay at home moms are leaders. They're influencing their children, they're influencing the home life, and that's the foundation of everything, right?
absolutely, a lot of times they're doing budgets and meal preps and you name it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I always say I couldn't do it.
I could never be a home mom. No,
Yeah.
I could not.
Yeah. And it's okay, whichever path you choose, it's okay. And they're both leadership roles.
Absolutely. That's why, I mean, as I said, leadership can be at any level, at any point, at any situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ellie, what would you what is the overall message that you'd like to share with our audience today? Like if you could drill it down to one thing for them, what would that be for you?
Don't be afraid to jump into the opportunity.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if it's big or small. Sometimes there's like several projects, come up, or other situation at work or volunteering life, anything. Just jump in. Sometimes it's just jumping in without even knowing what it is all about. It's all good. You'll
Yeah.
learn in the process, you'll get some help, you'll grow. And that's okay. It's okay to be not to be comfortable.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think this is like my biggest kind of like growth came from the time that I was not comfortable at all. It stretched me to the point that it was just, oh wow, I didn't even know I can go that far, kind of, just even mentally to absorb all of this. So my suggestion would be, don't be afraid, just jump in. Doesn't matter whether you know it or not. Just learn, get help, move on.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's such a powerful point, Ellie, because, there's research that shows that women won't apply for promotions or new roles, new jobs, unless they may meet more than 90% of the criteria listed. You go on LinkedIn or something and you see, and they won't apply. But men will apply if they have at least about 60% of the criteria. They're throwing their hat in the ring. And part of the reason that women aren't getting some of the roles and some of the promotions is on them for not jumping in, right? Not jumping into the deep end. And
Exactly.
so, yeah,
Or
we
not
have to take.
communicating. Exactly. Sometimes, I mean, we don't even communicate what is it that we want.
Mhm.
Like sometimes our boss does not even know that we want leadership opportunities. We've never said that. So
Yeah. No, it's so true. And it's another reason I wrote this book is because while we do need to change our systems so that women have a more equal chance, and while we do need to bring men on as our allies and advocates in the workforce, we also have to take responsibility for our side of the street. And it may not be, I often say, like, what's happened to you in your lifetime is not your fault, right? We've all had different kinds of circumstances. I talk about my own in the book. And none of that's our fault, but it's our responsibility what we do with it and how we move forward. And so there's a lot of societal and cultural and even evolutionary programming that is, be polite, be a good girl, you should be seen and not heard, all of this stuff that's been transmitted to us. And so that's not our fault, but it's our responsibility what we do with it. And that point of communicating what you want, so simple, but you have to raise that level of awareness to do it. And this book is about taking ownership of your side of the street and overcoming those obstacles to get what you really want.
we're not victims. We are not victims.
Right. Right. Before we go, Ellie, I would love for you to take out your card deck and pick a card for us today, for ourselves and our audience.
I actually did. So from my card deck, the world needs my unique gifts and talents.
Ooh. Oh gosh, I just got like a chill from that because it's just so on point with everything we were talking about.
Love it. I absolutely love it.
Fantastic. Ellie, I just can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with us. It's been such an invigorating conversation. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I can definitely send an email and we can publish it together as with my interview.
Okay, that sounds terrific. That sounds terrific. Thanks so much, Ellie, and thanks to our audience for participating. Feel free, if you are catching this on the replay, to #replay. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, and my website, drdonnamarino.com. We'll post links in the comments here so that you can purchase the book, the workbook, the whole 9 yards, and join us every week at noon Central Time for more wise leadership discussions.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.